I'm Ryan, 34, and I've spent the last decade learning that family doesn't always mean warmth or support or even respect. Sometimes, it's just the people who share your last name and think that gives them free rein to treat you however they like. I didn't always feel this way, of course. There was a time I craved their approval, hung on to every little compliment, every rare moment when they treated me like I mattered. But over the years, I learned to manage my expectations. Or at least, I thought I had. This Easter, I volunteered to host dinner. Again, not because I thought things would be different, but because my mom guilt-tripped me with her usual, "You have the nicest kitchen and dining space, Ryan. Your sister's place is too small, and you know how tired I get." It was the same song every holiday, and I always gave in. I'd spent 3 days deep cleaning the house, prepping the guest rooms, and cooking dishes I knew everyone liked. Yes, even my brother's weird lactose-free, gluten-free casserole. I didn't complain when they showed up 2 hours late. I smiled, hugged everyone, and tried to shake off the familiar heaviness in my chest that always settled in around my family. My mom arrived with her signature perfume cloud and a passive-aggressive remark about how the driveway was so steep, I thought I'd need climbing gear. My brother Matt, 2 years younger and somehow still treated like the family's crown jewel, walked in behind her, already scrolling on his phone. His wife, Amber, didn't even say hi before plopping her designer bag on the entry table and asking if the guest bathroom had real hand towels or just paper. My sister Lacey was last to arrive, wearing a floral sundress and a fake smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. We hadn't spoken much since the Christmas blow-up, but I still set out her favorite drink and a vegan option for dinner. Dinner was tense. Like always, I played host, refilling water glasses, running back and forth to the kitchen, making sure everything was warm, replenishing bread baskets, and pretending not to notice the whispered conversations happening without me. Amber had a loud laugh, one of those theatrical, attention-demanding cackles, and she used it freely every time Lacey made some snide joke. Mom's eyes would flit toward me whenever something awkward came up, but she never said anything. She never had to. Her silence always spoke louder than her words. When I finally sat down, after ensuring everyone had full plates and second helpings, there was this beat of silence. I thought maybe, just maybe, someone would acknowledge the effort. That maybe my mother would soften, say thank you, or even just smile at me like I belonged at the table. But instead, she fixed me with that cold, tight-lipped stare she always reserved for when I disappointed her. And then she said it, loud and clear. "You should be used to being left out by now. It's what you're best at." I didn't move. For a second, I wondered if I'd imagined it. But Matt laughed, this low, smug chuckle, and my stomach dropped. No one looked shocked. No one said, "Hey, that was uncalled for." Not even Lacey. She just stirred her drink and looked away. I blinked. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't make a scene. I stood up, calmly, pushed in my chair, and walked back into the kitchen like I'd forgotten something. My hands trembled as I pulled out my phone, scrolling past texts from coworkers and reminders about deadlines. I found the thread with my lawyer, Michelle, the same one who helped me manage the transfer of the summer house last year. We'd been in talks about signing the deed over to my parents as a gift, partly for tax reasons and partly because I thought, maybe stupidly, that it would make them proud. They loved that house. It had been in the family for generations, but I was the one who'd bought it back after it was foreclosed during a rough patch. No one helped, not even a loan or a kind word. But when I'd gotten back on my feet, I did it quietly, without fanfare. I never asked for anything in return. I opened Michelle's last message about the deed transfer and typed, "Please cancel. Do not proceed with the house transfer. I'll explain later." Then I locked my phone and took a deep breath. The hum of voices from the dining room drifted in, Matt bragging about his promotion, Mom listing her health complaints like a grocery list. I didn't go back in right away. I leaned against the counter and stared out the window, watching the garden I'd planted in spring start to bloom again. It felt like a different world out there. Peaceful, quiet, unbothered. When I finally returned to the table, no one even noticed I'd been gone. The conversation had moved on to summer plans, and I heard Matt say, "Once the house is in Mom and Dad's name, we can finally fix that deck, right?" My mom nodded, beaming like it was already hers. Lacey looked up from her phone just long enough to say, "You know, it's wild how Ryan finally did something right." That was the moment. The moment I realized they didn't just take me for granted, they'd already decided I was a footnote in my own story. Someone to use and discard. And I had spent years, trying to earn scraps of approval from people who would never give it. who saw my efforts not as kindness, but as weakness, as obligation. I didn't correct them. I didn't tell them the house wasn't theirs yet. I just let them keep talking. Let them plan renovations and furniture upgrades. Let them bask in the fantasy they'd built around taking something from me without ever acknowledging what I'd done to get it. Because I had a different plan now. One that didn't involve being left out. One that would finally remind them that I wasn't someone they could overlook anymore. And as they laughed and toasted to a future that was never going to happen, I just smiled and waited. I didn't sleep that night. Not out of stress, no. It was a calm sort of wakefulness. The kind you feel when you know a storm is coming, but you've already boarded the windows and stocked the pantry. I walked through my house in the quiet, barefoot on the hardwood floors I'd refinished myself last fall. Every corner of this place held some memory, some blood, sweat, and solitude. I thought about how I'd worked 2 jobs for a year straight after the foreclosure just to save enough to buy the summer home back from the auction. How I'd sat in that cold lawyer's office, signing papers with hands that still shook from overwork. Not a single one of them showed up to help. But the second the landscaping looked good enough for Instagram, they started calling it ours. For months, my mom had been saying things like, "When you sign that house over, we'll finally feel like the family's back together." She'd needle me about it during phone calls and guilt me in front of the others at dinner. "It's your duty," she'd say. "You're the oldest." And when I agreed, reluctantly, to begin the paperwork with my lawyer, you'd have thought I'd handed them the deed in a gift-wrapped box. They were already treating it like a foregone conclusion. But not anymore. The next morning, I got a message from Michelle, confirmed. "The deed remains in your name. No transfer will occur. Happy to discuss details whenever you're ready." I stared at the text for a long moment before replying simply, "Perfect. Thank you." I added a lock screen note to remind myself to change the access code to the summer house gate. And then, because I'm not above a little flare, I scheduled a maintenance crew to go up there that weekend. Not to work on the deck, but to install a brand new security system and a digital lock. One I controlled remotely. One they didn't know existed yet. I didn't tell anyone. I let them carry on with their group chat, when I wasn't included in, of course, where they exchanged furniture ideas, Pinterest boards, and mom's wish list for the house that wasn't even theirs. Matt suggested turning the back bedroom into a man cave for football weekends. Lacey wanted a reading nook. Amber said we could rent it out on Airbnb when no one was using it. The "we" in that sentence almost made me laugh out loud. I stayed quiet. I watched. I waited. 2 weeks later, I got the invitation. A glittery, overly designed event titled Family Summer Kickoff Weekend. Hosted, apparently, at my house. I read through it like it was some kind of parody. Poolside brunch, grill night, family trivia games, and our big "thank you, Ryan" toast. As if they'd planned an entire event around a man they hadn't even bothered to include in the organizing. The RSVP button was already filled in with "attending, Ryan." I almost didn't go. Part of me just wanted to change the locks and leave them to figure it out on the porch. But something in me, something deeper, wanted to see it. To witness the moment it all fell apart. Not for the drama. Not for vengeance. But for closure. Because I needed them to know. Not assume, not guess, but truly understand what it meant to cut someone out of their own life and how little they deserved to be part of mine. The day of the kickoff weekend, I didn't show up early. I waited. I knew they'd get there first. I knew they'd have a key from the old lock. Matt had copied mine a while ago, without asking. But when they got there, the new system would stop them at the gate. The one with the new keypad and camera. It was almost noon when my phone rang. Matt. I let it go to voicemail. Then Mom. Ignored. Then a family group chat ping, one I hadn't seen activity in for months. "Ryan, the gate isn't working. Call us. We're standing here with groceries and towels and everything." I sipped my coffee. Took a screenshot. Saved it to a folder labeled Receipts. Then came Amber's text. "You could have said you canceled the trip. That's just cruel." Lacey finally sent a voice message. Her tone was icy. "If this is some kind of punishment, it's really childish. We've all been planning this for weeks. It's not just your house. It's a family place." That was the final straw. I opened the group chat for the first time in over a year. And I typed, "No, it's not. It's my property. My money bought it. My signature holds the deed. Not one of you helped me reclaim it when it was lost. Not one of you paid a dime. You just waited until it was convenient to claim it as yours. That ends today. You excluded me at every turn. So here's your reminder. I don't owe you space in my life. Not even a vacation home. Enjoy the drive back." Then I turned my phone off. I don't know what they did after that. I assume they stood there, mouths open, phones in hand, looking around for someone to blame. Maybe they argued. Maybe they turned on each other. Or maybe, for once, they sat in silence and thought about how they treated the one person who had never stopped showing up for them until now. But that's not where this ends. Because the fallout from that day, well, let's just say it wasn't limited to one summer weekend. I didn't check my phone until the next morning. I wasn't in a rush, after all. What were they going to do? Yell at me? Again? Demand an apology? I'd spent years walking on eggshells around people who saw kindness as currency and used guilt like a scalpel. This time, I wasn't going to be the one chasing them for peace. I brewed my coffee, opened the window to let the breeze in, and only after I'd sat down at my kitchen table, sunlight spilling over the floor, did I scroll through the aftermath. The group chat was chaos. It had started with stunned silence. Then the text came in fast. Mom, I don't understand. You agreed. The house was supposed to be for the family. Matt, this is beyond petty. We counted on that place for summer. You don't get to pull the rug like that. Amber, we had groceries, plans, RSVPs. How do you think this makes us look? Lacey, never one to miss a dramatic opportunity, wrote, I defended you to everyone. I told them you'd come through. I said you were just busy. You embarrassed me. That one actually made me laugh out loud. Then came the pivot, the phase where they realized the nice approach wasn't going to work, and they leaned into what they really thought. Matt, it was our family home before you swooped in and bought it. You don't deserve to hold it over our heads. You think being successful gives you a free pass to punish us? Amber again, this is exactly why no one takes you seriously. You throw money around, but you've never been part of the family where it counts. And finally, the cherry on top, my mother, bless her manipulative heart, I didn't raise you to be vindictive. What would your father think? That one stung. Not because it was true, but because he wouldn't have approved. He'd been gone for 5 years, and he was the only one who had ever made me feel like I had a place in this family. The house had been his, once. He taught me how to build shelves in the old garage, how to patch drywall and fix a leaky faucet. I bought it back for him, for his memory. But the people left behind had turned it into something selfish, something transactional, like it was owed to them because they carried his name. I didn't reply, not to any of them. I deleted the group chat and blocked Amber's number, then Matt's, then Lacey's. I left my mother's unblocked, not out of kindness, but because I wanted her to sit with the silence. 3 days later, I got an email from a law office I didn't recognize. It was a notice, not a lawsuit, just a letter of concern. Apparently, Matt had tried to claim the summer house as intended inheritance and was inquiring whether it had been misrepresented during estate planning. They wanted to open a discussion about how the property had been handled after our father's passing. I forwarded the email to Michelle. Her reply was brief, nothing to worry about. The house was purchased by you, with a clean title. There is no legal basis for their claim. Let me know if you'd like to send them a formal notice to back off. I told her to wait. Let them stew. Meanwhile, I made a decision I probably should have made years ago. I pulled the financial ledgers. I tracked every payment I'd made on my parents' behalf over the last decade, mortgage help, medical bills, car insurance. I tallied up the emergency fund I'd quietly topped up when Lacey's credit card was maxed out, the rent I'd paid when Matt and Amber couldn't afford their last place for a few months. It was over $67,000. And not once had I been thanked with sincerity. Not by the people who took the money. Not by the family who said I was lucky to have it. I wasn't bitter. I was done. I took all the receipts, compiled them in a neatly formatted document, and attached them to a single email address to my mother. The subject line read, "So we're talking about entitlement now?" Inside, I wrote, "You once said I should be used to being left out. I suppose I am. But now, you'll all get used to something else, being on your own. Here's a breakdown of every expense I've covered over the years. Not because I expect repayment, but because I want you to see that I never had to be generous. I just chose to be, and you mistook that for weakness. I'll be handling my boundaries the same way I handled your bills, with absolute control. Best of luck with everything. Ryan." I had sinned. Then I called the property management company I'd hired for my rentals and added the summer house to their portfolio. It would now be listed as a high-end, short-term rental, with one condition in the fine print: no rentals approved for anyone with my last name. They'd never step foot in it again. But the story didn't stop there. Because families like mine, they don't go quietly. They didn't take it well. At first, I thought maybe, just maybe, they'd get the message. That after I cut off contact, blocked their numbers, and took away the one thing they cared about more than me, the summer house, they'd sit with that silence and learn something from it. But no, my family wasn't the type to reflect. They were the type to retaliate. It started small. A few weeks after my email, I got a call from the HOA near the summer house. Someone had filed a noise complaint. Then another, this time about unauthorized renovations. It didn't take a genius to figure out who it was. I hadn't been to the property since the gate installation, and the security system proved it. No one had entered, no work had been done, and certainly no noise had been made. It was harassment, plain and simple. I had the HOA manager flag both complaints as frivolous and logged them in my file. Then came the anonymous one-star reviews. The property wasn't even live on rental platforms yet, but somehow it already had 3 scathing reviews. Dirty, unsafe, post is rude and impossible to deal with. They'd been posted using burner accounts, and while I couldn't prove it definitively, the usernames were suspicious. I had my lawyer send a cease and desist letter to each of them. Worded professionally, of course, but with enough legal weight to make them blink. Then I waited. Sure enough, a week later, the reviews disappeared. And that's when the real storm hit. One afternoon, I got a call from Michelle, my lawyer. Her tone was calm, but clipped. She'd received a formal letter from my mother's attorney. They were contesting my father's estate. 5 years later, apparently, the new claim was that my father had made a verbal agreement to give the summer house to the family upon his death. Not in writing, not in a will, just spoken. No witnesses, no proof. It was a desperation move, a baseless, legal longshot. I told Michelle to handle it, and I meant it. I didn't even want to see the paperwork. But still, it got to me. Not because I was scared, not because I thought they'd win, but because it confirmed something I'd suspected deep down for a long time. They had never loved me for me, only for what I gave them, what I could do for them. The second I stopped being useful, I stopped being family. The hearings were short. My father's will was crystal clear. The summer house had been foreclosed and removed from the estate years before his passing. I bought it back using my own funds. The judge dismissed the claim without hesitation and even warned their attorney not to waste court resources again. Michelle sent me the official letter with the ruling, and I framed it. Hung it in the guest room, right above the bookshelf my father helped me build when I was 15. Closure. Or so I thought. A month later, I got a call from my sister, Lacey. I almost didn't pick up, but something in me, it wasn't hope, not really, more like curiosity, made me swipe answer. Her voice was low, almost timid. Ryan, I wanted to talk. Can we meet? I paused, then said, say what you have to say now. She hesitated. Look, things got out of hand. Mom's been losing it. She's telling everyone you've turned on the family, that you've gone cold since Dad passed away. She's rewriting history. And I know I haven't been great either, but I cut her off. Lacey, you told people I embarrassed you. After you all planned a party in a house you never owned. After you sat there while Mom humiliated me at dinner and didn't say a word. I didn't know she'd say that, she replied quickly. You know how she is. She just gets. No, I said. That excuse doesn't fly anymore. You know how she is, and you still chose to sit next to her. Laugh at her jokes. Benefit from it. You all did. I was your safety net, and the second I said no, suddenly I'm the villain. Silence. Then, quietly, are you really cutting us all off for good? I took a breath. I'm not cutting anyone off. I'm just done being the one you all lean on without ever offering anything back. I'm done playing host, fixer, wallet, scapegoat. I gave you more chances than you ever gave me. And when I finally stood up for myself, you turned on me like I was the problem. So no, Lacey, I'm not coming back. She didn't argue. She just sighed. Mom's going to hate that. Let her. I hung up. That was the last time I spoke to any of them. It's been 8 months since that Easter dinner. I've since converted the summer house into a full-time luxury rental. It's booked out through the year, with a wait list for the holidays. I reinvested the earnings into another property, this time out in the mountains. Quiet. Remote. Mine. My phone is quieter these days. No passive-aggressive texts. No guilt-tripping calls. No manipulative group chats asking me to fund someone's mistake. Instead, I wake up to emails from guests saying how much they loved the house, how peaceful it was, how it felt like someone poured care into every detail. I respond to each one with gratitude. Because I did. I poured my care into that place. My history. My time. My love. And now? I finally get to enjoy it for myself. I still think about them sometimes, my mother, my brother, Lacey. I wonder if they ever sit around and ask themselves how it all got so broken. If they ever feel even a flicker of regret for the way they treated me. I doubt it. But it doesn't matter anymore. I built a life that doesn't revolve around their approval. And for the first time in my life, I feel whole. So no, this isn't a story of family reconciliation. It's not a tidy bow where we all hug it out and pretend nothing happened. This is a story about boundaries, about finally realizing your worth, about walking away, not because you stopped caring, but because you started caring about yourself more. And if they ever find this post, and I hope they do, I want them to know, you didn't lose me because I was selfish. You lost me because I finally learned not to be. And I'm never going back.